Well, hello, for law friends, and welcome to Uncivil Law. I hope you're having a good day as always. My day is not going exceptionally well, no particular reason, but today just kind of in a bit of a bad mood. Or bad is not the right word for it. Just a bit of a I don't know. I'm not in the greatest mood, and I like YouTubing, and it cheers me up. So I thought I would do this, and I would nonplussed maybe, or sanguine mood maybe. But in any case, I thought I would do some of this because it always seems to cheer me up. So from time to time, I like to respond to comments in the YouTube comments. For those of you who are here during live streams, you know that I make an effort to engage with people during live streams, make an effort to read comments there. And I also make an effort from time to time to go back and read YouTube comments. So I thought, I'd spend an hour or so going through YouTube comments and responding to stuff. So we'll go through, whatever's kind of on top, and we'll respond to not every comment. We won't respond to every comment, but we'll respond to ones that look interesting and things that I think need further clarification or further analysis or whatever. So I think it's a good way to engage with people and to try to give something back. So we'll go ahead and do that. So in your channel creator tool, you can see like all the comments in one place, which is kind of nice. So I can respond to them all in one place. With respect to my chat, or with respect to my post where I said I'm confused on the personal jurisdiction issue because it seems to be a bit of a wasteland in the case law, Gaming for Life said, I honestly, I watched one of your videos and was confused until I watched Emily's video. I think the main point was that KJ's sworn declaration stated she didn't conduct any activities or work in Washington, and she had no subscribers there. Both of those claims are disputed by Salty by saying, yes, you do have subscribers, who apparently include a Ride or Die fan, and on top of that, she has access to demographic stats, so she would know someone in that state watched her content. Well, that last part's a bit of a mistake. She could know, because she could go look, but not that she would know, because I don't know. So I could look, but if I don't look, I don't know. So she could know, not that she would know. I agree that the law's not been updated to grasp the reach of internet has. Yeah. But I think the main right was they had the right to sue wherever damages were done. That was the argument in part. And showed people in Washington to stop buying the products because of KJ's statement. Yeah. And also people stopped following Toddy because they thought they were not the greatest people. Damaging Toddy's channel to Halo as well as James, who's the focus of the thing. That's basically the argument for Toddy's lawyers, yes. In short, you can sue wherever the damage was done. That's their argument, yes. And they showed there was damage in Washington. Yeah, that's what they're going for. That's the argument that they're trying to work. That's the argument they're trying to make. So whether that argument will be successful or not, we will have yet to figure out. But you've correctly understood Toddy's argument. You correctly understand the theory that she's working from. We have demonstrable harm here. You've done demonstrable things that harm here. You've hurt our business reputation here. You've hurt our personal reputation here. You've done all this deep dive legal and other research, pulling records in this state. So you've done enough things to inject yourself into Washington state, and therefore we can get jurisdiction. So yeah, that's the argument. And whether or not that works or not, we'll have yet to find out. And the case law does seem to be a bit of a mess because the case law that's out there wasn't really designed for the internet, and all the courts have been trying to catch up to varying degrees of success. But yeah, you correctly understood Toddy's argument. So, good stuff. If you're confused, we're all confused. On the existence of subscribers as or viewers in Washington, as her attorney, would you have not expected her to review the analytics before willing and signing the statement? Absolutely not. No, I wouldn't expect her to review it. Why would I? She says I don't know. If she looks, then she would know. So I'd tell her not to look, because she can truthfully say, I don't know. If she looks, then she'd know. So no, I don't want her to look. If I was attorney, no, don't look. Do you know if you have any subscribers in Washington? No? Great. Don't look. Then you don't know. All right? So that's a truthful statement. And Alex would have answered the question, yes, but if you then look, then you'd know. So that's bad. And plan for requesting analytics and discovery, that does make a liar out of her. No, it doesn't. It would give him the information to prove what is true, but it wouldn't make her a liar. Her statement is, I don't know. She didn't know. She didn't look. So her statement would be true. Yeah, plausible deniability as well, that kind of thing, yeah. By thinking I was also thinking by listening, is it not the purpose of the line in response to the saga of the barge? Was it not the purpose of the line to transport oil? Not as such, no. The purpose of the line, it seemed to be, was to transmit the electrical stuff. The fluid seemed to be a byproduct, but whatever. How can 80 million of us hold the U.S. accountable for not doing their job? They did their job. But denying to hear the evidence when the world, which so much of the world has heard already, which is pretty minimal, they're ignoring our rights. No, they're not. And basically legalizing voting fraud. They're not doing that either. Maybe we can't sue alone, but we should have a voice if we stand together. I'd explain standing, but it wouldn't do us any good. In response to this shooting an unarmed suspect thing, a pat-down or a Terry frisk does nothing to dispel that your suspect may still be armed. Then what's the point of the pat-down or the Terry frisk? If the pat-down and the Terry frisk wouldn't dispel your theory that they're armed, what's the point of doing it? Isn't the whole point of it to find weapons? That's what an actual search is designed to do. Okay. A frisk is not a search. Well, it's a kind of search, but I understand your point. You can't remove the object you feel during a Terry stop unless you can articulate why you reasonably believe it is or can be used as a weapon. Yeah, but that's not very hard in the real world, as I'm sure you probably are aware. In response to, I've been trying to understand jurisdiction, your interpretation of the complaint is the best yet. It's the only realistic interpretation. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if it's the only realistic interpretation, but it's a realistic interpretation. And there are some issues and problems, and there are some, if you accept the premises as true, it makes some very potentially uncomfortable conclusions. It seems to suggest that there's nationwide personal jurisdiction for potentially everybody, or at least a large swath of people, which I don't know is necessarily what they were going for, but that does seem to be the conclusion at the end of the page if you follow it all the way through. And maybe that's the right answer, but, not necessarily good. Is it too late for KJ to miss the defamation? Well, there's going to be an argument over it that there didn't have to be. So presumably KJ will put it in her answer and deal with it there. So she doesn't necessarily have to move to dismiss it. She doesn't necessarily have to move to dismiss. She can just now argue why she doesn't lose, which is kind of in practice the same, but it's like she can let the charge survive and just argue why she doesn't have liability. And maybe she wants to do that because she wants to get to discovery or something, but whatever. Much better video than Emily's. Well, I don't know about that. We just have different styles. You actually state facts and law correctly. Judges don't care about shade, like Emily repeatedly states. They care less. It's more for our entertainment than not, and they are used to seeing much darker degrees of shade than anything we've read. Judges are a little bit, as a group, they're a little bit cynical and battle worn, and it takes a little bit to get their attention because they've seen so much crap in their day. So they're a little bit not going to be impressed by the shade. They probably won't even notice it exists. I don't think the purpose of my car is to transport window washer fluid or even a purpose. That's a fair criticism. It's a fair criticism. Someone like the bookshelf. Well, if everyone doesn't know, I'd say go with the flow and holding off jurisdiction until a judge makes her decision. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm a legal educator and legal commentator, and if my best opinion is no one seems to know the answer, then I think it's consistent to say I don't think anyone knows the answer. And this is an area of law that seems to be muddled and unclear. And when the judge comes up with an answer, we'll certainly analyze it, to be sure. But I don't know if there's anything wrong by saying this area of law seems a little bit uncleared and muddied and a little bit unsure. I don't know if that's a problem. Without a crystal ball has been such an unlikely menace to not just Toddy, but YouTube community as a whole, that I do see this game refiled in Minnesota purely out of spite. That might be a strong possibility. Which, incidentally, when she sues in Minnesota, she can still sue for damages in Washington. So that's not a problem. She can sue for those damages there, because it's supplemental jurisdiction, no problem. She can bring that stuff in. I look awesome in the hat. Thank you. I'm confused with your confusion. Fair enough. And personal jurisdiction in the internet age is a bit weird. The law was not really 100% designed for this, and so the law has been struggling, it seems, as best as I can determine. I was reading some law review articles written last year and written this year, where it seems the general consensus is we don't know. So we still don't know 30 years later, because no one has quite figured out what to do. Different courts have tried different tests, and they all kind of fall apart. Different courts have announced different tests, and they try them, and nothing works. And so it's a whole sea of muddled confusion. So as best as I can tell, so no one knows the answer. Seems to be the correct answer here. In response to my Oh Christmas Tea video, which I enjoyed making quite a lot, this was excellent. I watched KJ's videos as they aired. There was a slit of could this mean? What do you think it could be? I was shocked Toddy sued. Her videos on James Charles has ledge hedging and more statements that sounded like fact. I'm shocked how many people listen to and support both women react as if the words are truths revealed by the divine rather than gossip or opinion. This reveals more about the listening and lack of critical listening. Maybe. Yeah, there might be something there. Congratulations on 19K, and hope you make it by 20,000 by New Year's. That would be very cool. As of this morning, we were up to 19,100 and change. So we picked up like 100 subscribers since yesterday. So with a little bit of luck, we might hit 20,000 by the end of the year. Crossing fingers. Why do I feel like KJ is taking notes for the defense? She may very well be. And then this guy, Richard the Peer, says, or Pear, haha, heck yeah, man. Check out the tech law program at University of Arizona Law School. There's a few good articles from professors, and they're just as confused as you are. That does seem to be the general consensus. Even the professors in the field, even the professors in the field are not quite sure what the answer is. We don't know. That seems to be the collective consensus, as best as I can tell. Which means, as a practical matter, there's a wide range of latitude for the district judge, because any answer they give could be right or wrong. And yeah, so yeah, It's so weird to me that you don't have to register your residence in the U.S. That's mandatory wherever you are. You do not have to register your residence with anyone in particular now. As far as I remember, you also don't need much jurisdiction for publications in accordance with German law. So apparently Germany requires you to register your home address. Germany didn't think that might have been a problem given some of their things in their history. Okay. So this didn't seem weak to me at all, but I don't know much about U.S. law. Fair enough. Wearing my hat winder off too. I don't typically wear it on non-batch record streams. So I wear it for the batch record, and I typically don't wear it if I'm just doing casual things like this. I'm a law nerd and found you through Emily. I subscribed. Congratulations on 19K. Thank you very much. What I love about you is that you're using the law as a means of making clear that KJ still has it. Let me just move the screens a little bit so I'm not looking quite so much off camera. So let me just rearrange the windows real fast, so that way I can recenter and I'm not looking quite as much off camera when I'm reading. There we go. That's better. Just bring that in a little bit because I don't need that border. There we go. There we go. What I love about you is you're using the law as a means of making clear that KJ still has his chance, despite a lot of people hating her. I'm not fond of KJ, but you bring a perspective that makes clear that KJ might win if she could present better. Yeah, that's my best legal opinion. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. I don't, but I don't. It doesn't change what's legal. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. That being said, I hope Toddy wipes the floor, but I know it's irrelevant. And Toddy might might wipe the floor with her for a whole host of reasons, but it's still a lot of campaign. Yeah. Mary Beth says, "How did I miss Emily? Is my favorite YouTuber, and Uncivil Laws growing on me. Super smart. Love this. Well, how can you not love that too? Seeing you get so excited over the umbrella analogies made my day. When I figure out something and then I'm like, when I really have, yeah, I did get very excited about that, but I'm like, here's these two different things, and I'm like really excited because I'm like, I think I might have something that works. So, it's like, let me think of something that would make this work. I think the negligence comes down with the conclusions KJ drew. I'm not sure. Strictly speaking, it's possible to have negligence in conclusions, because the ultimate conclusion is an opinion, right? Because a conclusion isn't a fact. It's just what you think the facts say, right? So facts would be like, facts would be like this. Facts would be like this person. This person seems to be at the end of a hill, and they're hurt. They seem to be hurt, and the hill seems to have ice on it, and there seems to be skid marks in the snow, maybe because they were trying to gain their footing. So maybe so the ultimate conclusion would be they slid down that they were trying to walk and they slid down the ice, and they stumbled and they fell. Right. So that would be like a series of facts. There's this icy hill. This person's at the end of the hill. They look like they've been hurt. There's some marks in the ice. There's some marks in the snow. Maybe they were trying to walk and they slid down there, and now they're here and they've gone hurt. So that would be a series of facts followed by an ultimate conclusion. But that ultimate conclusion isn't necessarily the correct conclusion. It's perhaps the most likely conclusion, but it's not necessarily the only conclusion. Because, in my extreme hypothetical, because I'm creator of the hypothetical and I can have any rules I want, in my hypothetical, it turns out, no, actually, he didn't slip down the hill. Those marks were from animals, and he was stabbed and he was dumped out of a car by the mob or whatever, right? So, the ultimate conclusion isn't a fact. So if she says, here's a whole bunch of facts and here's my conclusion, I'm not sure it's possible for that to be negligent in a strictest sense. $10 from innocuous remark. Hey buddy, you might enjoy the book The Age of M, written by an economist, about what would happen if we could run copies of people on computers. Lots of interesting legal questions. That would be a lot of interesting legal questions, yes. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. I made the font a little bit bigger and a little bit bolder so it was easier to read, so I hope that worked out pretty well for everyone to be able to see it on screen. I appreciate the different perspectives and even-handed analysis. I imagine as more and more documents will come out, you get a better sense. Yeah, as more things happen, I'll have a better and more secure sense of where I am. We're still pretty early in the case. Congratulations on 19,000. Good start to the next year. I was not getting your standpoint the first time I watched you, but now I get it. Is it possible that Toddy's lawyer knows something about the other side's attorney being off? Or they think it's not really an attorney that did a response and wants to expose it? No, I don't think so. I'm not sure Toddy's lawyer would have done anything differently in any case, regardless, or nor should they. I thought Toddy's lawyer did an extremely good job. Now, all that being said, that doesn't mean that there aren't weaknesses in the case and there are not problems legally in the case. Right? Just because someone does an excellent job of writing and an excellent job of drafting doesn't mean that they're legally sound. You can have the best, most well-constructed words, but if the law is wrong, the law is wrong, right? So just because the writing is good doesn't mean the argument's necessarily good. And perhaps no example of that is more pertinent in recent memory than Texas's lawsuit before the U.S. Supreme Court, where Texas sued Pennsylvania. That lawsuit was unbelievably well written. It was one of the best, in my opinion, it's one of the best examples of legal writing I've had the pleasure of reading in recent memory. It was It was a lawyer's writing. It was brilliant. All that didn't prevent them from being wrong on the law. So the fact it was unbelievably well written didn't mean that they weren't wrong on the law. They were wrong on the law. It was just unbelievably well written. So Toddy's lawyer, I think, is doing a great job, and they're writing fairly well. And I'm not sure they do it any differently in any case, but it doesn't mean that they're right. You know? More tea. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. I love the nuance of language. Falsehood versus lie. It is interesting. It is very interesting. It's like these are not exactly the same concept. Something can be false but not a lie. Yeah. Seems like new subs are only watching for the KJ content and hate watching. I doubt the increase of popularity will continue once the lawsuit ends. Well, I don't know, but I'll take what I can get for the moment. So we'll find out whether or not the uptick in popularity is a short time thing and whether or not it's really hate watching. New sub because I appreciate your honesty and perspective. Thank you. Barnhart is from Washington. That is factually true. KJ has no subscribers from Washington. It's not clear KJ knew that Barnhart was from Washington. It is true, but it's not clear that she knew that, right? In response to the guy skipping out on bail, says the defense is going to love the concurrent word. Yeah, concurrent is a great word the defense likes to hear because it means that you, as a practical matter, you serve less time, which is nice. The one thing that totally sucks about the American judicial system and many others is how your personal bank account and connections influences if you see justice or not. That's somewhat true, but also somewhat untrue. I have seen I have seen public defenders do brilliant work, and I've seen private lawyers do bad work. I mean, it's probably true in the aggregate, but I mean, there's a lot of times the underdog wins. It's not the guy with the biggest bank account doesn't always win. Sometimes the guy with the biggest bank account loses, and yeah, it definitely happens. So I don't think it's quite as simple as money buys justice or even money buys access. There's a lot of good people doing a lot of good public service pro bono work out there, and a lot of them do really good work. So I'm not sure how true that is. I love the comments breaking your logic. Thank you very much. I was a bit upset with myself after the fact on how many times I repeated myself in that description. So there was some validity in the chat on that point, and that was a bit of a personal failing because I just felt like I needed to say it again and again and again because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. You can't hold both these positions at the same time. But probably 2 or 3 times rather than 6 or 7 would have been fine. So maybe not my greatest stream ever in that particular respect. Paula says they wouldn't get mad if you're fair in your assumptions. That's why Emily loves you, because she understands the case. Yeah, fair enough. And I need to stop saying things like fair enough and no problem so much. So maybe I need to make a little list. And every time I say fair enough or no problem or other sort of filler words, I could penalize myself. Make a donation to charity or something. I did notice that I was doing that a lot when I listened back to my own stuff. Give it up, dude. The response is magnificent. And you're trying to find some grace for Caddy. Caddy is something. I don't think you're very logical because it's very simple why they called KJ's attorney in bad faith. Because in order to prepare his case, he should have known or know what Katie said in her videos. I doubt that very much. I doubt that. I don't know that I agree with you that a lawyer necessarily has an ethical duty to view all the videos in dispute. There were quite a lot of them, and all of them went on for a lot of time. So did the lawyer have some sort of obligation to watch? I don't even know how many videos there were because they ran out of letters. It was A through Z and then it went on. It was like it was at least 40. So the lawyer has to look through all those videos to know what they say. I don't know, man. That seems a little bit much. And in the new response, they were referring. I think they got down to like triple and quadruple letters. Then they get down to like JJJJ. So that's 26 times 4. So that's 104 videos or something and news articles. I don't think the lawyer has to read all those first. Seems like a bit much. Dude, go watch the videos in this. They're linked in this suit. No, because it would taint my view. It would taint my perspective. I like to have the perspective. You're making nonsense half-cocked. All right? Yes, but it's on video, so she can easily access what she said from the past. She could, but she doesn't have to. Right? If when you're making a statement right now, it's like, did you, it's true or it's not. It's not whether I could have found out. It's whether or not I did know. So she could have looked at her analytics and found out. She could have looked at her past videos and found out. But if you're asking me right now, do you know if you have any subscribers in Washington? If the answer to that question is honestly no, then it's honestly no. That she could have found out is irrelevant. She answered the question honestly. It's like telling me to go outside and the sky is blue without even going out. While I go out, the sky is blue and there's somewhat orange here in the distance. So you're half right and half wrong. Just watch the videos. Well, figuring out whether the sky is blue is probably a little bit easier than figuring out whether it's true in these videos because it requires a little bit more work, but there's something in there. About Katie knowing that for a fact that Toddy was living in Seattle was because she had shown the address from Toddy Swanson. Therefore, she couldn't use Swanson's affidavit as proof. When in her digging several videos, she admitted knowing Toddy was in Seattle. See, I don't agree with this conclusion. I don't agree with this conclusion personally. The records from the Secretary of State's office, which showed the address in Washington as a home location, is evidence. As it happens to be pretty good evidence because it's in an official record. So Katie did have evidence that Toddy had a location in Washington. That was a piece of evidence that she had, and evidence that she could have reasonably relied on because it was contained in an official government record. Now, that being the case, however, the fact that it's some evidence doesn't mean it's the only evidence. She also had access to what Swanson said in his sworn affidavit, which also has some degree of reliability because it's in a sworn statement from somebody, and that's something. And as I point out, just because you put your address at one location for one purpose doesn't mean it's the same location for other purposes. It certainly doesn't mean it's the only address that you live at. So if Katie knew for a fact that Toddy had an address in Washington on this document, which she seemed to know because she put it in her video, so she had that evidence. She also had other information to the contrary. She had what Swanson was saying in his sworn affidavit. It appears that she had tags on videos and imagery from sources that such as Instagram or such as Twitter or such as Facebook or such as YouTube or such as whatever other social media that might indicate that she was taking things from Washington from California at particular times that might be suggestive that she lived there. So she had evidence that Toddy lived in Washington. She also had evidence to the contrary. And I don't think that she can be necessarily reckless for relying on this piece of evidence versus this piece of evidence. I'm not quite sure why people think that because the home address was written in this one record, even if it's in the Secretary of State's office, I'm not quite sure why people think if it's in this one record, that's the end all be all, and all other possible information to the contrary should be just swept away in one fell swoop, or why that would be the only reasonable thing. Like it would be a reasonable thing to do. It would be a reasonable thing. See, there can be more than one reasonable thing. Maybe that's where people are getting tripped up. There can be more than one reasonable thing to do. There can be a wide range of reasonable options. Not everyone has to respond the same way. So it'd be a reasonable thing to do for a person to say, well, this is an official record of the Secretary of State, and someone put in an official government document that they had a home address in Washington, so therefore I'm going to rely on that as true. That would be a reasonable thing to do, for a person to do. But it would also probably be reasonable for a person to say, well, that's only one piece of evidence among many, and I have some other stuff over here that suggests the opposite. So I think her home address is really in California. That might be a reasonable thing to do too. So I'm not quite sure why people think that the fact that Katie had this one document is the end-all, be-all, death nail, singular truth, and to rely on anything else is foolish or unreasonable. Seems slightly odd. I wonder if this is a response for the motion to dismiss. It is, since it never was mentioned in the response. The defamation. Yeah, they didn't respond to defamation because Katie never mentioned it. That's exactly right. My issue isn't that you're critical Tottie's side. My issue is I lost my temper. Fair enough. How would a judge have responded if you lost your temper in court? I wouldn't. It's a completely different environment, and I wouldn't lose my temper in court. So it's not a problem. Same deal on YouTube, but the audience is a judge. Fair enough. I perhaps lost my temper in an improper way and perhaps hurt my credibility. Right? So a reasonable person, such as you guys listening to this, you're all reasonable people. A reasonable person could look at when I was shouting or whatever and think that I lost my temper. That'd be a reasonable conclusion a person could draw. And they could conclude as a result that they think that my credibility is less because I lost my temper, or I was mean to my chat or my other members, or that they don't like me as a result of doing those things. Those would be reasonable conclusions a person could draw from that evidence. There's other evidence to the contrary. So I would suggest it's not the only reasonable conclusion, nor is it particularly the one I'd like you to draw, but it's a reasonable conclusion for better or worse because there's evidence that would support that conclusion. So perhaps I did hurt my credibility, or perhaps I was mean to the members, perhaps I was mean to my subscribers, and perhaps I will become a better YouTuber with time. One can only hope that much at least is true. You get a like. I also have a sweet spot for underdogs. Yeah. I always feel like it's adversary. It's art from adversary. It's kind of like why I like the underdog. Art from adversary. When you have fewer resources, sometimes better artistic work comes as a result. So when you're under more pressure or have fewer restraints, sometimes that's where the really best art comes from. So I always like the underdog position because I always feel like it creates the biggest incentive for me to get the most creative, because I have to overcome obstacles, and so it makes me think harder. So I do like the underdog position a little bit much. Congratulations on 19K. And I'll say it again. You're now absolutely sucked in. You now love the tea. Well, I love you guys. There's that. Just discovered the channel through a recent collab with Emily Baker, who I'm hoping to be on with next week. We still don't have a time. So hopefully Wednesday, if not earlier. And that would be Wednesday at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Would be the reason I say that's my standard time that I do a stream with Nate Brody, Nate the lawyer. So since all three of us want to be on, that's our standard time. So if we do it as our standard time, that for Nate and my stream, Nate and I do a stream 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. So since we're already both available at that time, that would be logical because neither of us has to reschedule. So I don't know if Emily's available or wants to do it at that time, but that would be a convenient time to do it at. I'm really enjoying the different perspectives. It gives different context. I also appreciate jumping on the hate bandwagon. I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. Don't get me wrong, not a KJ or Toddy fan, but I do find sad the amount of disdain and hate KJ is getting when Toddy's hands aren't exactly clean. Well, there's a lot of feeling towards these people for better or worse. It's just not the position I'm in. I don't feel you began this adventure siding with KJ, but as this progressed, the backlash and accusations in your comment section calling you a KJ supporter has pushed you to double down and possibly, even if only subconsciously, want KJ to win. That's possible, I suppose. That's possible. I did make a point of mentioning, and I'll certainly mention again, that when I read Toddy's response, because it's written by Toddy, I'm going to read it against her, right? Because it's written from her point of view to be as favorable to her as possible. So because it is from Toddy, I'm going to read it against her, because she's already trying to make herself look as good as possible. So I want to find why it doesn't make sense. So when I read Toddy's original thing, I was very skeptical to Toddy. When I read KJ's filing, I think I was very skeptical to KJ, beat my head against the wall. And then when I read Toddy's filing again, I'm now back where I was, and now, reading it in a way that favors KJ. So presumably, we will determine whether or not I have unconsciously or otherwise become a KJ supporter when we hear the next response from KJ and the degree to which I am equally critical or not. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to think that it's bad or poorly written or wrong, because maybe it's at least possible that KJ will write a really good thing and I'll not be able to find any flaws in it. So maybe it will be the case that as I'm reading it, I'm just like saying, yeah, it's right all the time, and I can't find any flaw. But that doesn't seem particularly likely. But we'll see, I suppose. Your delivery is what kills your content for me. And once you screamed F you to someone in live chat that suggested to speak with a lawyer you had an issue with, I was done with your channel. Yes, you deleted it, but the internet is forever. Fair enough. I said F you to someone because of, and was not one of my prouder moments, and I deleted it because it wasn't one of my prouder moments. And, I'd also like to point out, not that you care, but you are infringing my copyright, because you have produced a duplicative work of my work without permission, and you're not using it for any purpose. So you've made a recording, so that's a violation of copyright law. Not that you care, but yeah. In response to the Dr. Fauci thing, he says he didn't want people to buy the N95 Max because there's a shortage for first responders, and we're all locked down, so we didn't need to buy them. That was, in fact, his motivation for lying. Right, that would be his motivation. The virus is out of control here, and hospitals are out of PPG. We all need to vaccinate because people who get the virus only have antibodies for 4 to 6 months. I will get vaccinated because I'm scarred lungs and have asthma. Okay. I agree with you. That was his motivation for lying. He didn't want people to buy them because there was a shortage for first responders, and he didn't feel that we needed them. That's why he lied. I agree. $20 from Superstitious Oblivious B. Hey, Kurt, I just want to say that as someone who came to your videos from Nick Ricada, I think you're a great lawyer. I find you extremely accurate when it comes to law, and my advice would be to stay true to yourself. Well, thank you very much, Superstitious Oblivious B. I appreciate it very much. And I will stay true to myself, and I will try to be as equally critical of KJ's next response as I've been thus far. Now, if her response turns out to be really, really good and not particularly worthy of criticism, then, so be it, but we'll see. Probably not particularly likely, but we'll see. YouTube takes 40% of ad revenue. Yeah, I was speaking of super chats. That's correct. Sarah Kusar says, I subscribed. Have to admit that I don't agree with a lot of what you put forward on your channel. However, as your reasoning is clear and well presented, and give me points to think about on topics where we disagree. Fair enough. I can't ask for much more than that. It's such a relief to find intelligent opposition as opposed to the angry masses on both sides. Yeah, I try to, you don't have to agree with me, but I try to make my reasoning as clear as I can. I try to make my biases as clear as I can. I try to make everything as clear as I can. I try to be as self-aware as I know how to be. So, yeah, you're under no obligation to agree with me, but hopefully it all makes sense from my own premises and my own thought process. Hopefully the chain of logic works. I love the background. Thank you. I thought the background worked out pretty well. I was told it was raining, so I brought an umbrella to use. Right. So, in that example, it's raining is not hearsay because I'm not offering it's raining. I'm offering it was told it was raining. So, right. So, it's not hearsay because I'm showing a justification. I'm showing why my actions happened. Right. I was told that a guy killed someone, so I shot them. Exactly the same thing. Legally, it's exactly the same thing, right? I shot this guy because I was told he killed someone. So that the underlying truth of the statement is not relevant. So whether or not he did kill someone is not relevant, and I'm not even being offered for that reason. I'm showing why I did a particular thing. Actions have different level of repercussions. Sure, the defense of reacting to what you perceive as true doesn't make it right. I wasn't arguing it made it right. I was just arguing that it made it not hearsay. And it's not hearsay in both examples. It's not hearsay in both examples. I brought the umbrella because I was told it was raining. I shot the guy because I told he killed someone. It's not hearsay in both examples. I'm not offering it for the truth that it was raining or the truth that he killed someone. I'm offering it to show why I did a particular thing. That particular thing may or may not be legal, but it is definitely not hearsay in both examples. Congratulations on 19K. I hope you're having a great Christmas. I'm having a pretty good Christmas. I feel like you've already picked a side in this case and you're very biased and want to see KJ to win. I'm a little bit of underdog, but I think I've been pretty fair to both sides. It really seemed like Ty's lawyers built a very good, very strong case. Yeah, I thought she did a very good job. I always feel like you're cutting towards KJ giving benefit of the doubt. I am when I'm reading something written by Toddy. Sure, of course I am. I'm absolutely cutting towards KJ when I'm reading something written by Toddy. Right. Correct. And I'm reading it towards Toddy when I'm reading something written by KJ. Correct. I'm reading it the opposite way around because someone went to a lot of effort to make it look one way. So I want to read it the other way around. So, yeah. Correct. You have caught me, sir. You have caught me in applying my bias correction mechanisms. Just sobbed for the eye candy. Glad to have you here, Ashley. We know that KJ's lawyers knew Toddy did not live in California because part of the evidence provided by Salty. There's a video of KJ saying she lived in Washington and just sold the house there. No, there was other evidence to the contrary, as I pointed out. And just because you bought a house there, and just because you live in Washington doesn't mean that you don't also live in California. Right? KJ's lawyer would have seen this video by doing his job. Probably not. Probably not. If I were a betting man, KJ's lawyer has probably not watched every single video in dispute. Nor would you expect him to at this stage of the proceedings. That's a lot of material. If he has looked through all those videos, I have to massively increase my estimate for how much the legal costs are. Because that's a lot of legal time. Also, the screenshots from Instagram that KJ's lawyer uses evidence that Toddy lived in California. These are also photos of Toddy at her home in Washington that were just brushed off. Brushed off by who? By KJ? I mean, if KJ manipulated the photos, that would be a different story for sure. All right? If she manipulated the photos, that would definitely be a different story. Toddy spoke on living in Seattle, and KJ acknowledged the fact that she lived there way before the lawsuit. Well, again, that is a piece of evidence. Toddy said that Toddy spoke of living in Seattle. That is a piece of evidence that she lives in Seattle. Is it true? I mean, people do lie, including Toddy by her own admission, I'd like to point out once again. And I'll try not to get into the angry rant mode about this again. But Toddy by her own admission does admit that when she posts things to social media, it's not always of the place or time that it purports to be, because she doesn't want people to know her whereabouts. So, yeah, Toddy spoke of living there. There was other evidence, though. Toddy's word is not gospel. And KJ acknowledged the fact that she lived there. Doesn't mean that she didn't live in California, too. The attorney would have watched the videos. Probably not. About if he did his job. No, probably not. Not at this stage. There's no reason to, in particular. There's no reason to watch the videos at this point. You know, maybe when we get to deposition, then I'll probably have to watch all the videos, because I'm going to have to prep questions for every video, and that will take forever. But until we actually get to discovery and we're starting to plan depositions, then I'm probably not going to watch every video if I was KJ's lawyer. So until we actually get to discovery and we starting to think about scheduling depositions, that's when I'm going to have to start watching every video, probably, and hate my life. There was a video by KJ talking about Toddy selling her home in Washington. It doesn't matter what post he saw or what KJ said. It doesn't matter what videos he saw. Maybe he didn't believe KJ videos. Maybe he thought Toddy had a second home. Maybe he didn't know. The point is, you can't prove he didn't know and knowingly lie, because there are other possibilities. Yeah, we're sitting here talking about a known liar like KJ, and you're saying he saw it on YouTube, so he must have known. Even if he saw it on YouTube, it is a piece of information among many. The lawyer probably had the business record thing. He probably had that. Probably had he had the thing from the deposit. He had the thing from the sworn complaint. Maybe he had some Instagram videos. Maybe he had some other things. He had a bunch of information. He could reasonably argue that Toddy didn't live there based on that would be a reasonable conclusion someone could draw, or at least it's in the air. Now I know why you won't be as popular as Emily D. Baker. Unsubscribed. With response to the guy giving him Ginger Cowgirl, said for the guy who skipped out on probation, give him points for trying. Very good. I enjoy your commentary, but I'm wondering, are you biased towards KJ? I sometimes feel you are. When I'm reading things by Toddy, yes, by design. I'm disheartened that Toddy is putting her through this to prove a point, but KJ really reaches and goes well beyond ordinary line to cross. It's disgusting. 80 videos in 18 months, that's absurd. Let's see, 80 videos over 18 months. So how many videos is that? 80 videos in 18 months. So that's about 4 videos a month. Because if it were 20 months, it would be by 4. So it's about 4 videos a month. So that's about a video a week. That's a lot of videos about somebody. So, fair point. That is a bit much. It's a bit obsession-y to do a video a week about someone in particular. That's a lot of videos, man. Yeah. As far as your argument for not being perfect goes, it's pretty weak in regards to KJ and defamation case comes to hand. It was an example of how someone could say something that's false but not a lie. So all it was intending to show was how something could be false but not a lie. Isn't just that she said things that can be proven false, but also by her own assertions she did extensive research in order to come to her conclusions and pass them off as undoubtable. $25 from Michael Almeida. Hey, Kurt, could you cover United States versus Martin Furta regarding inland border checks? I really value your perspective because you changed my mind on only a few opinions. I based all my natural opinions off you in the past. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. I should stop saying no problem. Now, did I cover that case recently, or is that a different case? Because if it's the same case, I don't want to cheat you out of your $25. No, different case. Okay, great. I'll add it to the list. No problem. You got it. Let's see. Story suggestions. No. Paid stories. All right, got it. Thank you. If you had said, oh, did you assume there's only one Seattle? And also followed up, that can't be true because I know, thanks to paying documents and conducting research for journalistic purposes, I'm working on Seattle and determine there is more than one. That would be a different scenario. That's fair. Not only is it false statements being passed off as fact, it's about soon to be proven history of aggressively going after the Westbrooks, where it's argued to consider harassment in the state of Washington, where defamation cases being litigated. Yeah, I mean, I was only offering the example to show that you can say something false without being a lie. That was the only reason I was making that particular analogy. No. Ginger Cowgirl in chat says, I love that you responded to that comment. No problem, Ginger Cowgirl. I am here. Don't get too depressed over the subs. Well, I do suffer from depression issues. So some days, like today, for example, I was a little bit down. And I mentioned that at the start of the stream. And it's an ongoing problem. And there's no particular, I mean, any of you guys who suffer from depression probably well know that there's no particular reason that I was more depressed today than a normal day. So, you know, some days I'm better and some days I'm worse. And, you know, some days things get me down more than they should. Depression is not exactly an unknown problem in the legal field. Also, the heavy drinking. Also, how do you put this politely? Without people like completely worrying about me. The self-deletion rate among lawyers is significantly higher than in the general population. There may need to be a digital law to deal with social media for jurisdiction. Yeah, probably. Congress needs to do something. That'd be helpful. Are there any laws, policies, or procedures that are unconstitutional in the 17,985 law enforcement agencies in the United States? Are there any? Yes. Sure. I mean, there have to be. I mean, there's 17,985 of them. So yeah, there's laws, policies, or procedures unconstitutional. Can I name any off the top of my head? No. But the way you ask the question, I can give a cute answer of yes. I sort of spinned out of control after 2 hours. I don't know if I spinned out of control, but I did get very excited and very passionate about something, and it came through. So that's true. You'd love to meet up with me and any other Austin fans? That'd be cool. That'd be fun. I just subscribed. I'm living for the karma this lawsuit is bringing. KJ has been nasty for long, and both her fans and detractors have been warned she's playing with fire, but she just wasn't listening. After 4 ceases and desists, she literally dared Tommy and James to sue her. Which, you know, fair enough. You know, just because you send me a cease and desist doesn't mean that you're right. And you can send me 4 of them. And if I think you're wrong, I can tell you to pound sand and sue me. That'd be a valid thing to do in response to a cease and desist. Cease and desist. No. You know, if I think I'm right, you know, I'm right. This is our Christmas present from Toddy. It may very well be. Katya Cotton, please don't let this YouTube BS cause you feel depressed or less than. The YouTube doesn't. The YouTube makes me feel better. The YouTube itself makes me feel better. I was just responding to the fact that sometimes I'm already not be outside of YouTube. YouTube is actually one of the bright points in my life. YouTube actually gives me quite a lot of joy. So I love doing this. This I like. But for reasons unrelated to this, I might be depressed or in a foul mood. Or because depression doesn't always work rationally, for no particular reason, I might not be in a good mood that day or in a sour mood or in a depressed mood for no particular reason, because sometimes that seems to be the way depression works. So all I was pointing out is that sometimes when I'm reading something, it would hit me a different way because of something I wouldn't do otherwise. But I appreciate the comment and the warm thoughts, you know. And there is the phrase in Latin, which I never quite remember, but which I have, I think, somewhere around here, the actual like thing. But don't let the bastards get you down. It's not real Latin, but they try to pretend it is. because, it's fun. And then, yeah, people say that bear is pronounced bear. So Bexar is pronounced bear. So I was corrected on my Texas. Rich Lux is here. Hello, Rich. Sending you love and light. Thank you, Rich. That's very nice of you. Some people watch videos with confirmation bias when they watch your videos. Don't feel sad. Thank you. I try not to let it get to me. And also, it's one of those weird phenomena, and I'm not the only person to comment on it or note it. But Jordan Peterson pointed this out as well when he was talking about his own Twitter and how he had to get off Twitter eventually. He was responding out like to him because he gets way, way, way more positive comments than negative comments. But he said how when he reads a negative comment, it hits him like 100 times more than every positive comment. So I think, and he gave some reasons for why that might be, because, if someone's saying that you've done something wrong, you might want to correct yourself. If you're into evolutionary psychology as a basis for that, then the reason would be because maybe you're about to be kicked out of your tribe and you're about to be exiled, which if it happens when you're still in tribal society, that means you're about to die. So the respective mood of people is a problem. And when people are unhappy with you, that's a much bigger threat. So maybe there's some evolutionary reasons that we're more sensitive to negative information than positive information. But in any case, yeah, it's the very fact that so many of you love and support me is very, very encouraging and very, very warming. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, no light Basteris conundrum. That's right. Very good. That's right. I responded to Diana, I think, in YouTube. I responded in Discord. But in response to Anthony Fauci lies, I'm trying so hard to watch your live stream and have opted not to make this comment on a live stream. But I'm really having a problem over this episode. Do you not realize this will not be taken as a reason not to wear a mask? Probably. Yeah, and also probably not to get a vaccine, which is also probably why it's good for our people who are in charge of our health to tell us the truth. Because when they don't, we have reason to doubt them. So yeah, it would be reason for people to doubt what they're being told. It'd be a very rational reason for people to being doubt what they're told under masks and under vaccines, because people lie. And when they lie, they don't have credibility. So yeah, a person might reasonably think masks are lies or vaccines are lies, because they'd have a basis to draw those conclusions in a rational way. So yeah, and I'm just simply reporting reality. And I don't think I should be not reporting reality, because it's reality. Maybe don't tell lies when you're the head of infectious diseases for the NIH. That'd be great. Fauci did the wrong thing, but surely does nothing to correct it. You want to grow your channel. Gee, I'm clear that we all need to go a different channel. I actually don't know what you're advocating, but you surely can see reading below that you've incited. Well, first of all, in a legal sense, I didn't incite, because that has a particular meaning. But I did point out that Fauci lied and he doesn't have credibility. Fauci did lie and he doesn't have credibility, in my opinion, as a result. And therefore, everything he says can be treated as suspect. And especially when he seems to say that he's intending to lie to us in the future. So no, he seems to be saying that he has plans to lie to us. So as a result, I'm not particularly inclined to take what he says with 100% degree of certainty. I think there may be rational reasons to somewhat doubt the man. Just one man's opinion. Maybe if he hadn't been a liar and purposefully deceived people for his own motives, which someone else illustrated as well. Well, his motive was to make sure people didn't buy N95 masks, so healthcare workers would have them. Yeah, that was his motive. Right. That was his motive. He thought he was doing it for the greater good. Right. Correct. I agree. However, what he actually did as a result of that motive was lie, and now his credibility is kind of shot. So that is not my problem. It's pronounced Cartagena, not Cartagena. Wake up. That is a very aggressive comment for a mispronunciation. That's a very aggressive comment. Henya, not Yenya. First of all, I feel like that could be pronounced either way. Second of all, that's a lot of aggression for a typo or a mispronounce, which I do somewhat frequently. Michelle Rhodes says, love my take. I know I can get an extremely unbiased review. Thank you for your commentary. I hope you have a happy holiday. Thank you. You get a little heart. Someone loves the hat. Get a little hat. Get a little love. KitKat99X69 says, anyone else getting frustrated watching the beginning of this video where he's paying attention to the chat and skip reading through the lawsuit that he doesn't understand that the whole thing that they're trying to prove that without a crystal ball made a big statement to the court in a filed legal document that she didn't know that she added any viewers in Washington state at any point in time while she was making these videos, and this all punctuation, and this all basically proving her statement to the court to be false. No. He seems to be too busy paying attention to the chat. Well, I am trying to pay attention to 2 or 3 different things. Yeah, I'm trying to pay attention to the chat, trying to pay attention to what's happening on screen. It can be difficult, and sometimes I'm doing other things beyond that. So sometimes I've been doing like 3 or 4 things at once. Paying attention to the chat, trying to pay attention to what I'm reading, trying to do legal research sometimes on top of that, or trying to look up something else on top of that. So yeah, sometimes I'm doing 3 or 4 things at the same time, and it gets a little bit weird trying to juggle that many balls at once, but it can be a problem. What's my opinion on Fauci white knighting the WHO in their handling of COVID? I think the World Health Organization is also worthy of some skepticism and criticism for some of their handling related to COVID. So, and also Dr. Fauci vouching for them when him himself is not particularly worthy of respect is not exactly a great encouragement. Merry Christmas, Kurt. Well, thank you, Robert. I think you were in chat at one point. Thank you very much. I think you're doing a pretty good job at multitasking. Thank you, Kentucky girl. Yeah, I do a reasonably good job. But some people give me a hard time. Well, is anyone else frustrated because he's not reading this and reading this? I'm like, yeah. Which videos, comments am I looking at? I'm looking at all of them. YouTube, on the YouTube creators, it has all of them. So I'm just responding to all the comments in all the videos at the same time. How cool. Sorry, you're wrong. It's pronounced Behar, not Bex or Bear. Get a clue on Happy Face. A lot of aggression. Tommy is the second time with the all caps, Tommy. Tommy with the all caps. Tommy is very, very aggressive when he sees a mistake. He loves the all caps. There's a reason that I banned all caps in chat. Yeah. There's a reason I banned all caps in chat. Happy holidays. What a response. As a layman, I can only say Toddy's lawyers are effing amazing. They did a very solid job. They were very professional. I don't think pointing out the subscribers in Washington was jurisdiction, but to say she lied in her answer. It's not clear that she lied. And, yeah. Yeah. Nikki said, oh, thanks, Uncivil Law and Gabrielle George. I was confused. Okay, I'm glad you, yeah, you can see the video thumbnail to the right. So you can see what video it's relating to on the right. What video he beat his head against the wall that everyone keeps talking about? That was in my response to that was in the motion to dismiss. So that was the second video in the series. Emily just obliterated you with every line she went over. I mean, I watched Emily's video. I didn't really feel obliterated personally. Especially when you try to defend KJ's side and say Patricia from Washington wasn't important. And then Emily explained why it was important. Man, I wouldn't want you on my defense team. The question is if KJ knew that at the time she said it. So, I don't know that Emily was obliterating me. I didn't feel particularly obliterated, but okay. Noted. Uncivil law obliterated. Blah. Why does personal jurisdiction matter if the suit was filed under diversity? That's a pretty good question. Diversity jurisdiction is a subcategory of subject matter jurisdiction. So there's many different kinds of jurisdiction. So you have subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction. So in the category of subject matter jurisdiction, diversity jurisdiction is a kind of subject matter jurisdiction. So you need the subject matter and the personal jurisdiction. So that's why it matters, because you need both. You need both the subject and the personal. And then personal also comes in two varieties. It comes in general and specific. So, of course, because everything gets unlistedly complicated. Yeah. 259 people are in live. Hit the like button. Yeah. I appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. That's a lot. 246 people. Thank you, 246 people, for being here. I do try to do these on a somewhat periodic basis because I think it's helpful to respond to comments, and it's good to show engagement, show I care, and to try to show to people that I'm listening to you and trying to respond to things. So I do like doing these from time to time, and I'm in a better mood for it too, which is also nice. Let's see, where were we? Fauci didn't want people wearing masks at first because there weren't enough masks due to our government letting China take them. The masks were needed at hospital, and that's where the spread was the worst. That would be his motive. Sure. I understand. Had you read the declarations yourself? We got there eventually. Response. Yeah, I got. It was late and I was tired, so we didn't get that far. Had you read the declarations, you would have seen there's a very specific reason why Tati's lawyers went through all the Washington stuff. KG said in her declaration she had no ties to Washington, but Salt showed in the declaration is not true. I imagine lying in a sworn declaration can be a problem for KJ. Not clear that she lied. And I don't blame Tati's lawyers for what they did to bring the evidence to bear that that's not true, but it's not clear it's a lie. Is that a Texas flag? It is a Texas flag. It is a Texas flag. On my wall, of course. Texas flag is good flag. As someone with vision problems, I wish they never made the all caps emote yelling. It'd be so much easier for those of us who use with vision difficulties to read the moving chat. Well, I would imagine there might be some kind of plug-in that would be available for you on your end to convert the chat. So there might be some sort of plug-in somewhere that you could download or otherwise, or some sort of accessibility features within the browser or something to make it more visually available. So I would imagine there's some sort of way to fix that problem. But I understand. It also makes it harder for me to read. It makes it harder for me to read all caps than in lowercase, because when there's been good work on this, Don, when it comes to motorway signs as well. So when you write motorway signs in all caps, it's actually a little bit harder to read, because when you write them in standard characters, you recognize the shapes. You recognize the shapes without having to actually read the word. So your brain works. It makes it a little bit faster. So you can actually read the word without reading it. So from the very shape of it, you know what it says before you actually understand it in the language sense. So you recognize the shape of the thing and you know what it means before you understand the word. And so there's been some interesting studies on that in terms of that. And shape recognition. So when you put things in all caps, it makes it harder to do shape recognition because people are more used to seeing it in the non all caps form. At least most people are. So we're more used to seeing the words in lowercase or with the first letter uppercase. So since then we're more used to seeing it that way, our brains can recognize the shape, and they can sometimes know what it means before actually being able to read it. And when you're traveling 70 miles on a highway, that's really important because you need every fraction of a second possible. So it's like I can comprehend it before I actually read it, which is pretty cool from a brain physiology point. But it makes it a little bit harder for me to read something in all caps because it's not the way I'm used to seeing it. So the shape is not familiar to me. So there's a little bit on brain chemistry and image recognition. Yeah. Thank you much for staying up to inform us. I don't know that was the greatest decision I've ever made, but it happened for better or worse. Who would have thought uncivil law having tea hour? Subbed and wanted to thank you for explaining legal terms with clear-cut examples. Passionate clear-cut examples. The only reason why having Washington subs matters is because KJ sent her motion she didn't have subs. She said she didn't know that she had Washington subs. This is like you have to read it very, very carefully what they're actually saying. And they say, yeah, they're knowingly lied. Well, they don't know that either. She could have looked up her analytics. Yeah, she could have. Then she would know. She didn't do that. Oh, yeah. I listened to your video about the young lady that had the C19 and the police made her remove her Instagram posts. That case is still ongoing. There's never been a final decision rendered in that case. There was a transfer of judge. I'm not sure why, but that case is still ongoing. I'm not sure why, but yeah, the decision in that case still has not come down. Maybe because the court has better things to do right now or whatever, but that was a long time ago and they still haven't written a decision. Will you answer our messages on Twitter? No. As a matter of fact, I won't. And that is not out of spite or anything else. I just don't use Twitter. I have an automated thing to make an automated post every time a story is posted, so people will find it, because I want people to make it, to be aware of it. And if YouTube isn't working for some other reason, I want them to be getting a notice of it. So I have an automated script that there's a Facebook page for my channel that I don't use, but it exists as a notification medium. And there's a Twitter page which exists as a notification medium, and I don't really interact with it very much. I very, very rarely interact with it. I use it when I try to have to direct message particular people, such as Emily, because she uses Twitter, and so I have to direct message her on there if I want to reach her. But not my personal favorite medium, but yeah, will I answer your messages on Twitter? No. No disrespect. There are a bunch of us normies that continue to love us geeking out. You're here for it. I'm glad you like it. Comments are a reminder of people's blind spots. Yeah, it's also a good reason to read them, because hopefully you become more aware of your own blind spot. Yeah, Twitter is toxic as F. You got it right, Robin. Twitter is a toxic wasteland. It is a very sad place. It's a very sad and silly place. I don't want to use a Twitter. It seems sad. Your older shows are showing up in recommendation. Glad you're liking it. Didn't realize Uncivil Law had his own channel. Okay. Been listening to his voice opinion for a few years now for my favorite copyright attorney channel. That would be Leonard French. That's where I got my start. So he didn't realize I had my own channel. So, okay, well, welcome to the party. I've only been doing it seriously for a year. But yeah, Leonard French is where I basically got my start. Lawful Masses with Leonard French. Did a couple things with him. Had him over at my house. Been over to his house. And then I decided to start my own channel. And it's been going pretty well. Please explain conservative principles behind pardoning murderers, criminals, and Jared's daddy. Well, the conservative legal principle is fair enough. I mean, I can explain it. I can explain it from a couple different conservative perspectives. Which one do you want? From a conservative legal perspective, it's fairly simple. The Constitution says that the president has the power to pardon for all crimes against the United States. So, it's a plain text interpretation. It means what it literally says. And from a conservative legal interpretation, it's easy. From a conservative political interpretation, it's giving favors to political allies, which is pretty common when it comes to pardons. You can find this for all presidents pretty much throughout of all time, that they do political favors and give pardons to people of particular note close to them in the political affiliation. So it is rewarding people who are politically tied in, and I'm sure Biden will do the same thing whenever he gets to it too. So from all other perspectives, can we defend it? I don't know, but yeah, it's pretty easy. Okay, that was fun. In response to the video about Anthony Fauci lies again, someone said evidence, sources. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. All my evidence and sources were on screen, including a video from Fauci himself. What evidence? What sources? What? If a YouTuber has subscribers, paying members, or receives super chats from people residing in Washington, would that mean that YouTuber is receiving income from Washington? Probably. Could that give jurisdiction? I don't know. Because apparently the answer to jurisdiction in the internet world is, I don't know. No one seems to know. You need intro music? I'm looking into it. So we'll do some sort of intro and outro. Incidentally, if any of you people listening on the chat know of anyone, can recommend anyone reliable, or can recommend, or maybe you are such a person who is capable of putting together some intros/outros that you think that this channel, being a legal education channel, would work particularly well for what we're trying to do here, if you contact me on Discord, which is the place you can find me most often, and the link for my Discord should be in the description below. If you contact me on Discord and let me know that you're interested, I'll be happy to talk to you. And then maybe then also please follow up with me when I text you back, because I've had that be a problem before where people are like, I can help you, and then I can't actually talk to them because they don't want to respond to me. But if you're a graphic designer or artistic designer and can put together some intros, outros, I'm willing to commission some paid work. So contact me on Discord, let me know. What do I think of Medicare for all? Not my favorite idea. I do like the idea of nationwide private exchanges, would be my personal way of potentially, at least partially, solving this problem. The problem with the exchanges we have now is that they're on a state-to-state level, and that creates problems of scale, because every state only can sell to its own customers, and even in California, that's a lot less customers than exist nationwide. So you only have about 1/10 of the population existing in California. So I think nationwide exchanges are the easiest, simple way I can think of to deal with the Medicare issue. So you create, and because you're creating the market, you can also put conditions on it. So you can set like minimum levels of care. So you set like you can set minimum things as the federal government, because you're creating the system. So you don't have to impose it on anyone. You make it voluntary. So yeah, this is my proposal for fixing the healthcare system. Here's what I came up with for fixing the entire healthcare system. Let's see if you like this. So I don't really like when federal government imposes on people, and stuff. So I was like, well, how can we solve this problem? It's like, well, right now we have state level exchanges, and they're not really great because some states don't have very many of them, and there's efficiency of scale problems, because even the biggest states only have tens of millions as opposed to hundreds of millions of people. So I was like, okay, what can we do? Well, what we could do is we could create a nationwide exchange, and the insurance companies could sell to everyone in the nation from one big exchange. This is good for the insurance companies because it gives them a market of 350 million as opposed to 30 million, even in the biggest states. So it gives them a much, much bigger market. So that creates economies of scale, It makes things more efficient because you only have to have a single thing to sell it instead of one in every state, and so forth and so on. So, and it makes it easier to advertise to the nation and all the rest of it. And so that's a pretty big nice thing if you're the insurance companies, because like, well, suddenly I can sell my product to a way more people, and I can have a much bigger base of people, which is also good for an insurance company. So I can have a bigger risk pool. That's good for an insurance company, and all the rest of it. So I was like, well, that's good for the insurance companies. And then because we're offering this because we're giving all these wonderful, nice things that the insurance companies will like, then we can put in these conditions as the government for using this market. So we could set up things like minimum amounts that has to go to actual health care as opposed to advertising or other things. We could set in minimum guarantees of coverage. We could set in price controls. We could set in any kind of things that we think, because we're offering them an access to a pretty big pile of money, right? We're offering them an access to a pretty big pile of money. It looks really, really attractive, the pretty big pile of money. So it was like, yeah, we'll give you access to the pretty big pile of money if you play along these rules, right? You have to provide general checkups for free. You have to provide vaccinations for free. You have to have these kind of reporting requirements when it comes to the prices of things, so we know how much they really cost. You have to provide generic drugs for nothing. You have to do blah blah blah, whatever else we can dream up, and that's my way of solving the healthcare system. So that's what I came up with. Don't know if you like that answer, but that was my solution to the problem. And incidentally, this already exists, at least in part, because all federal employees are on a federal insurance program. So there is already a federal insurance program. It doesn't sell to 350 million people. It sells to like 2 million people, because I think that's the total amount of people that work for the federal government, especially once you have the military. So, yeah, there is already a nationwide exchange that sells to the entire country. It's just a limited portion. So you could either expand the federal insurance plan that already exists for everybody, or if that doesn't work, you could replicate it so you could have one for the federal employees and one for everybody else if you need to do that. So you could just replicate it. But it's not like we don't have a precedent on it. We already do it right now. If you're a federal employee anywhere in the country, you buy one plan from the federal government on a nationwide exchange. Most people seem to think that federal health care is pretty good. So, this is where the members of Congress buy their health insurance. So, I thought that was a pretty good plan. Vote Kurt Mueller, 2024. These are weighty issues. In response to Anthony Fauci, these are weighty issues and it's never black and white. What if you tell the truth and millions die? Well, Immanuel Kant would have said telling the truth is a categorical imperative. So he says you have to tell the truth no matter what. And if you compromise on your morals and lie, those millions would have lived. Well, if people find out, then your credibility is compromised. Tell the truth. Yeah, what would happen if you lied like Fauci to your clients in the court? It wouldn't end well. Quotas are, in fact, illegal, but they might call them different stuff. Allow employees to opt out of employer plans and take cash instead. Or make access to nationwide exchange or something. Sure, that works. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. That could work. I watched the whole House representative things, and he didn't want the general public taking all the masks because first responders needed them more. That would be what we call his motive. Yeah, you have correctly identified his motive. I'm a glutton for punishment. Apparently, when I was making that one, I was being up late at night. Yeah. Didn't Toddy claim depression and anxiety when going through her Bye Sister video? Couldn't speak to that. Emily Baker is a Salty fan. Her opinion of the case is biased. I don't know if that's true or not. She does seem to like Salty, but I don't know if it's biased. She's just reading it with a different eye than me. But you can form your own opinion as to whether or not you think Emily is or is not biased. "2 weeks to flatten the curve" was a lie. It does seem to have turned out that way. There's some suggestion that it might have been a lie, that they actually knew it was not true at the time. That might be true. Toddy and James just sold their LA home in October of 2020, which would be a reason to think that they lived in Los Angeles until October 2020, or were even legally residents or legally domiciled, if we want to be really fancy about it. So yeah, if they sold their house in LA in October 2020, that would be at least a reason to think they were residents. I mean, until 2020, that they lived in California until 2020, and there was evidence to the contrary, but there's evidence to form a wide range of opinions. It seems. In the affidavits from James said they never lived in that house. But how would KJ know that, whether or not they lived there? I mean, how would anyone in particular know that they lived there or not, unless they're stalking them in a very literal sense of the word? So, I mean, if you are looking at records and see that they bought it and sold it, you see that might be a reasonable basis to think they lived there. It may not be true that they ever lived there, but you wouldn't be faulted for thinking it, at least. You have COVID. I hope you feel better. His lies have never been malicious. Manipulative, yes. That's his job, and I'd be a failure at it. His job is to be manipulative? Okay. Noted. Yeah, illegitimate non cobrandum. Yeah, don't let the bastards get you down. Exactly. I don't think his lies were malicious. I think they were what's called medicinal lies. Lies told for the good of a public. Again, this sounds suspiciously like motive evidence to me. He lied for the greater good. That sounds suspiciously like motive. Thank you for your review of the documents without prejudice. I try. Don't you think he's lying because he knows a lot of stupid people out there won't take precautions if he's not nudged? That would be motive. He's lying because he thinks they're stupid people that won't do what they're supposed to do unless they're lied to. So we should lie to them so that they do what I want them to do. That's manipulative and lying. That would be what we call motive. I love how every rebuttal, I love how all the people who are trying to rebut me on Fauci are just giving me motive evidence. This is like the worst. This is the worst rebuttals ever. I mean, if you're thinking from this from a legal perspective, these are the worst rebuttals ever from a legal perspective. Don't you think he was lying because he knows stupid people out there won't take the precautions? So he was doing it because stupid people won't take precautions. Yeah, that would be his motive. Correct. Uh-oh. All the rebuttals to the Fauci thing are just giving me motive. Don't you think he was doing it because of X? Sure. That's his motive. Great. Thanks. That's wonderful. Motive evidence for days, man. Motive evidence for days. Did you get any sleep? I did get some. I think I got 4 hours sleep that night, as a matter of fact. I hope this teaches KJ a lesson and stop being so stalkery, nasty, and more important, listen to your attorney. Her motion dismissed with the first 8 pages sounding like an article and ignoring the defamation part of the lawsuit. It was not a great move. Either her or her counsel, something, if it ever loads the rest of the page. Read more, come on. Either her or her counsel is crap and couldn't put up with her crap and gave up and let her write it. It was not exact. The 8 pages of tea was not helpful. That was a fun one to record. I was like, okay, I'm gonna say this for the first time among many. Who cares? That was a fun one to record. I wonder if James Westbrook, right, who is basically a private citizen, we could get into his public figure status or not a little bit. It's his public figure status is interesting. It gets complicated because he's tied in with the business, but he's probably a private person, one would imagine. Getting sued for defamation regarding taking his mother off oxygen for money. Maybe Toddy is a public figure, and it was suggested, because it was suggested in my video where I said the informal test if someone's a general purpose public figure is if they're in the National Enquirer, and someone suggested that Toddy actually was mentioned in the National Enquirer. So maybe Toddy is a general purpose public figure. So at least it's arguable, right? I'm awesome. I'd love to have a margarita with you, and I still secretly love you. Well, thank you, T. Spicery. That's very nice. And I'll say maybe one day. That seems like a good reply. Why is YouTube being, my browser is being very slow? Because I click it, it takes forever for something to happen. Come on. There you go. If you love Marina Coladas, getting caught in the rain. Da-da-da. I think there's enough support that Toddy is a public figure. Yeah, I think the only dispute is general purpose or limited purpose. I think that's the only dispute at this point is general purpose or limited purpose. And we might be able to get to general purpose. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, that's usually a pretty hard trigger to pass. Yeah, my informal test of have you ever been in the National Enquirer? Apparently the answer might be yes. So we at least have an argument on it. Superstitious Oblivious B says, Uncivil law, sing to us law, daddy. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Why is there such an argument over jurisdiction? I thought in federal court there's no personal jurisdiction over the plaintiff. Well, over the plaintiff, yeah, but defendant, yes. Defendant is still a thing. Yeah. Let's see if I can do this one off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've done this one in karaoke. My other go-to karaoke song, which is such a bad one too. Such a great one for my profession, though, right? I'm just a regular Joe with a regular job. I'm your average white suburbanite slob. I like football and porno and books about war. I got an average house with a nice hardwood floor. My wife, my car, my kids, my job. My feet on the table with a Cuban cigar. But sometimes that ain't just enough to keep a man like me interested. Oh no, no way. No, I gotta go out and have fun at someone else's expense. Oh yeah. I drive really slow in the ultra fast lane while people behind me are going insane. I'm an asshole, he's an asshole, yoda yo. I'm an asshole, he's the world's biggest asshole. Lemonade stand. Stop. Lemonade stand is not a fan of the singing. I love how $5 from Superstitious Oblivious B. Bravo, no problem. Your deadpan humor warms my soul. You're welcome. Wish you had captions available. Yeah, I don't put them off on purpose. I might have selected the wrong setting or something, but yeah. I love watching you. Your read is hilarious. Love your sense of humor. Thank you, Susan. That's very nice of you. Personally, I like it when you beat your head into the wall. I feel like, since I don't have the green screen set up here, I can give you a little bit of what you guys want, right? So I'll give you a little bit of it's 11 o'clock at night. So one for the road here. I will bang my head for subscribers. I like how you come across dry and monotone, but you're just straight up sassy. I love your saltiness. Sorry, watching Thursday morning. Yeah, sleep is for the weak. But how every fiber of your being is crying out, why am I reading this cap? I don't want to care. Do it. Fun. He didn't say Virginia at the end. Got unsub now. Going to sub to Emily twice for the snub. Ouch. I'm trying to watch the chat replay, and I've tried to drive twice into chat at least 3 times now. That's funny. Will I sing for super chats? Yeah, probably. $5. $5 for some singing. Sure, why not? Thank you for covering this case with quickness. I've been subbed for a while, but honestly, this is the first video I watched all the way through, and I apologize for sleeping on you for so long. I will not make that mistake anymore. Excellent. No sleeping on me. No sleeping on anyone in particular. Sing Piano Man by Billy Joel. I have to start doing lyric. I'm gonna have to look up lyrics, man. I know the tune, but the lyrics. Now Johnny Barr is a friend of mine. He gets me my drinks for free. And he's quick with a joke or light up your smoke, but there's some place that he'd rather be. He says, Bill, I believe this is killing me. And a smile ran away from his face. Well, I'm sure I could be a movie star if I could get out of this place. It could have been worse. Could I pay you to consult on a Virginia issue? No. I'm going to pass on that one. No offense, Uncivil Law, but I don't think anyone can mistake your covers as anything but transformative. AI could not recognize it. Well, geez, why could I possibly be offended by that? Thank you, Nimeth. That's super. Oof. Oof. That's rough. Yeah, there's a lot of shade in there. That's a lot of shade. That's a lot of shade. I love seeing you and Emily work with and supporting each other. Great example for the YouTube community. Yeah, why not? Why not just support each other? It's helpful. There's plenty of we're not in competition. There's plenty of space for everybody. You know, we have not exhausted the market yet. So there's no reason to not be nice because yeah, rising tides rides all boats kind of thing. To me, flippant isn't hyperbolic, it's without regards to consequences. Well, has a couple different meanings, but what a great thing to wake up to. Coffee tastes even better now, thanks. That's great. I can hear Emily's excitement over the footnotes. That's funny. If all lawyers were like you, there wouldn't be as many lawyer jokes. You're single-handedly raising the reputation of attorneys. That's a very nice comment. It's a very nice comment. Thank you very much. It's kind of ridiculous. The first thing I did this morning after listening to Emily's live stream last night and not getting my toddy response fix, I immediately searched for an alternative. Well, if Emily isn't here to be your drug dealer, I'm happy to help too. I'm still laughing at your intro. It's wine that tastes like margarita. I recommend it. So dry, yet still laughing. Yeah, I do like the dry delivery. I like the dry humor, so I'm glad you enjoy that. Yeah. You make me smile, so wholesome. Well, thank you, Jeep Runaway Girl 713. That's awesome. Thank you. Merry Christmas from Norway. My YouTube right now is you, Emily, and knitting tutorials. I'm not quite sure what it means when I have crossover with knitting tutorial channels, but okay, noted. I've heard of drama in the knitting community. I've heard that there can be a lot of drama there too. What was their drama in the knitting community for, or something like that? Because there was some, was it knitting drama or crochet drama that got spilled over into the public space? Because there was some sort of thread, something, someone woke or something. I forget, but it made the conservative press about the drama in the knitting community. I listen to you while I'm knitting. It's fun. Okay, great. I also cross over with dog rescue videos. That's nice. One problem with your analysis, people already view the law as unfair. The people who want different rules for different people already believe that to be the case. The law is probably, yeah, I think people who think the law is unfair haven't really thought it all the way through. And there might be unfair laws. That isn't to say that every law is fair. But I think more laws are fair than people give credit for. It's like if you really think the logic all the way through, because you have to remember it has to be fair to everybody. That's the key. So it has to treat everyone the same as much as practical. And I think most laws are fair, and because they cut both ways, and everyone benefits and everyone um, degrades to equal measure, or at least they should. That's the aspirational goal, and I think that's mostly true. It's one of the reasons why criminal defendants sometimes evidence isn't brought in against them because the evidence was illegal. So sometimes they win. Sometimes big corporations lose. It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons the U.S. government loses in its own courts. The law cuts evenly to everybody. So I think the law does have a logic to it. And I think if you think there's an unfair law, it's like if you really think it all the way through, I think it's probably less unfair than most people think. And there has to be more careful consideration of what you're trying to really do. Yeah, laws need to apply evenly to everybody all the time. Or they should apply it evenly to all people, rich, poor, young, old, Republican, Democrat, good, bad. They should apply to everybody evenly. And if you find a law that's bad, it's like, well, if you think it all the way through, there's a logic to it that makes more sense usually. So I think most laws make sense when you think them through. A new member, that's always helpful. Glad to have new members. Thank you. Well, I think we've done enough for tonight. We've done an hour and 15 minutes of response, and that's a lot. And I'm tired, and I'd like to get up and I'd like to do my batch record tomorrow. So I will be on tomorrow about 12 hours from now, give or take, and to record stuff for eventual daily release. So that'll be fun. So if you want to see me, I'll be on in about 12 hours for batch record. So if you have not already done so, if you'd be so kind as to give it a like, I'd appreciate it. That'd be great. For those of you who are not members, you could hit the subscribe button. That'd be really nice. Help the channel grow. Help me see if we can hit that 20,000 goal before the end of the year. That would be super. Thank you very much for everyone who subscribed in the last couple of days. It's been really encouraging. And for those of you who are on devices that allow for it, there should be a join button somewhere next to where the subscribe button would be. For 99 cents a month, you too can become a member and get your name in green and help the channel grow and become a supporter. So until later, my friends, I hope you're well. Cheers and goodbye.